bit more activism based. We, of course, you are fit, so you fit into other things that we do. But this is probably like my first venture truly into something activism based. So very excited to learn from the best here, literally. So
Yeah, great.
Too.
Right.
Okay, I am gonna send it to you, Ella. Boom. All right, it's in WhatsApp, and John, send it to you, and I can send it to David.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. We are just sharing the live link. We will be starting here in about 2 minutes. Going to talk a lot about activism today with Ella.
Cool. Have you been, Ella? What's been going on?
Keeping busy and keeping my peace. That's what I've been. That's what I've been focusing on.
Love that.
We need more of that for sure.
Yeah, we do.
Truly.
Kind of a lot of, not even kind of, a ton of crazy things going on in the world and the USA right now. So.
Bro, it's been hard to stay afloat. The grounding definitely comes in handy.
All right. You roll. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome back to another episode of the Vegan Squad Pod. Today we have a phenomenal guest, super long-term vegan, activist, fitness person as well. We got Ella Majors, aka Sexy Fit Vegan. Make sure you give her a follow. We are sending some warm wishes to Jordan, our other co-host, who's normally here with us, but he's dealing with some health issues right now, but he's going to come back for the next one, I have no doubt. And we also have Alex, aka your vegan mentor, and myself, John Thomas, aka the Bodybuilding Vegan. And so this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun for me. I'm excited to see what Ella has for us and share some of the things that we've learned from like Gary Yourofsky. And then we just had Cliff Grant on yesterday. So lots of cool stuff. But first, Ella, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's so good to be here with you guys.
I think other people might be able to relate if they're vegan, that sometimes it's a little bit, it's not hard to be vegan or know what to eat, but it's a little bit hard to live vegan in a non-vegan world. And Ella, you've been doing that longer than most. I know a little bit of your backstory, but I'd love to hear how long you've been vegan, and then dive into your vegan journey, like how you woke up. I feel like that's always useful for people to hear.
Yeah, I think so too. 30 years now. I hit my 30-year mark.
That's
30
good.
years vegan. I'm 46. No, I'm not. I am 45. You ever do? I don't know if you do this, but like every year when I'm like within 4 months or 5 months of my next birthday, it seems like I start saying the next year just to like prepare myself for it.
I feel like I'm the opposite. Like I'll forget that I had my birthday and then I'm a new age.
This has just like been the last couple of years. This has been happening because somebody asked me, I was getting interviewed at Muscle Beach, And I just, out of my mouth came, I'm 46 years old. No, I'm not. I'm 45. Okay. So anyway, I'm 45. And very proud of my age. I don't give a shit. Anyway, so I've been a meat-free athlete for 38 years. So yeah, it all started when I was 7 years old. And I got in the car after school, first or second grade, probably second grade. And second or third grade, I don't remember. But I got in the car and my mom asked me how my day was, as mothers do. And I told her that we had learned about this guy named Daniel Boone. And you guys know who Daniel Boone is, yeah? Maybe? Okay, maybe they don't teach this anymore. You guys are so much younger than me. In schools, they used to teach about Daniel Boone. He's one of our first American folk heroes. So he was this wilderness guy, and he carried around a shotgun, and he wore this raccoon hat, and he killed his own food. He ate animals. So anyway, I told my mom, I said, this guy was supposed to be a hero, Mom, but he was such a mean man. I said, he killed and he ate animals. And yeah, and my mom like looked back at me and I remember this, and she said, well, Ella, we're just really lucky. Nowadays, we get to go to the grocery store. That's where we get to go buy our meat. We don't have to do that ourselves anymore. And it was literally at that moment that I connected the food on my plate, the meat on my plate, the chicken with an actual chicken. Like it all like clicked in that moment. And I was horrified. I was horrified that I was eating animals. And I told my mom right then and there, I said, well, that's it. I'm never doing that again. I'm never eating meat again. And of course, yeah, they thought it would be a phase, right? And so I would start just eating the side dishes off the dinner table. And it became very evident very quickly that this was not a phase, that this was even deeper than that it was like I connected with my purpose at that age. I started in school. I mean, and my mother like kept writings where we'd have assignments about what we'd like to see change in the world, or what the president, what you want the president to do. And I have these writings from me when I was just learning to write, and I would just write about how I don't understand. We don't need to eat animals. If I had my way, everyone would be a vegetarian like me, because the chickens and the fish, they all deserve to live, and we don't need to eat them to be healthy. And I was an athlete. I've been a competitive gymnast since the age of like 7 years old as well, doing gymnastics since 5, was on the swim team at 5. I'm training 4 hours a day. So I was very active, and I was thriving as a kid, eating the side dishes off my parents' plate. So I'll pause because I can keep going to the vegan story, but I'll pause there. Let you guys have a.
Alex hasn't got a word in, so I'm going to pause as well. But
it's okay. No, it's really cool. I love that you connected with the animals at such a young age. I didn't do that until I was 6 months into veganism, that I connected with the animals. So I just think it's really cool that you connected hunting to. I'm happy your mom told you, that you don't have to do it yourselves, and you were able to see like, oh, people do this to animals, and that's exactly where the animal products come from for me. And it's really cool that you were an athlete at such a young age too, and were able to prove that you can thrive as a vegan, still have all the energy that you need. That's cool. I didn't know that about you, and I also now know about Daniel Boone, so thank you.
Back to Daniel Boone, I was thinking like Davy Crockett. I don't know if they were in things together or not, but that was like, maybe this is David. But wow, I want to even take like call it vegetarian or call it like animal rights, like take that off of the metaphorical plate here. To be 7 years old, like I just want the people here to think about the mental fortitude that it takes to do something that no one told you to do. No one gave you a word like, oh, this is vegetarian. It wasn't your mom. Like, isn't it so horrible? For you to hear that in school, have such a strong sense of justice, and then to do something that no one else gave you a blueprint or a framework for, that's incredible. That just speaks so much about you as a person, Ella, and like your intelligence and your resolve and your character. And a lot of the times, like doing the right thing is easy when it's legal or socially normal, but to do the right thing when no one else is doing it at 7 years old, that's incredible. I think like for me, I had to be told what a vegetarian was to realize that it was possible. I had to be told what a vegan was to realize it was possible. So for you to do like literally, it's whoever like was the first vegan or vegetarian did that. Like somebody had to just wake up and decide I'm against this, and you basically did that in your own world before you realized there were others like you. It's just
yeah. And you make and this was 1987, you guys. And okay, what grade were you born?
92 for me. I was born in 92.
2000 for me.
Woo, way to make myself feel old. That's cool. But yeah, so it was 1987. And I will say this about me that, and I think this is important because when we start to talk about, how to help other people open their own minds and hearts, I think this will become important. But I was always a very strong-willed, strong-minded human. Like, I insisted on putting my own diapers on. Like, this is what I don't remember this, but my parents said, you were like, no, I got it. I got it. I'll put my own diapers on. Thank you very much. And at the age of 8, I was convinced that I should be legally able to drive a car. And I put up a fight, to my parents. I had a whole lawyer spiel about how I had the right, my foot could reach the pedal, and I just need a cushion, and I can see over the, so I'm just somebody who's always had a very strong, strong mind, and what that I could listen to my own kind of gut. Apparently, it wasn't always the smartest thing because I did not want an 8-year-old driving a car. But yeah, that is something about me and my personality for sure.
I was preparing a speech last night, and I actually didn't include this line, and it's funny how sometimes the universe works out. And the line was going to be something like act and dream the way a child would. Because when you're a child, nothing seems impossible. Becoming the president or going to the moon or going vegetarian, etc. Nothing seems impossible. And when we get older, we limit ourselves more than any other person in the world would limit us, just because we stop trying things that might seem impossible. So I see that in your nature. And so now I'm curious, there had to be some additional learning that went on. And back in 1987, I can't even imagine, maybe a magazine or maybe a book, no World Wide Web to use. So where did the journey go from 7 on?
Yeah, so I started just, like I said, writing about it, talking about it. And by the time I got to middle school, I had somehow connected with, and I'm not sure exactly, we're talking mail, I think, snail mail, but I had connected with a few organizations, including PETA, Vegan Outreach, a few others. And they started sending me information. And I connected with a local animal rights group I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And which is, they have their little hippie community. So we had a local kind of health food market where it wasn't totally foreign to be vegetarian. But, in my young mind at that time. So anyway, so I then learned about the connections and the cruelty involved in the dairy and egg industries. I learned about animal testing. I learned about all the different animals in entertainment. I learned about all the ways that animals are exploited and the reasons they're suffering at the hands of humans. So once I learned that, when I was about 15 when I was like, well, okay, now there's a word for it. It's vegan, and we're against the exploitation of animals. Great, I'm vegan, obviously. And then it was a matter of, all it took for me to make that change was for me to have the information. Once I got the information, it was clearly, of course, I'm not going to support that. Animals, I've got cats. Everyone's got cats and dogs, and they love them. And so, of course, if I just share the information, this is what I'm here to do. I am here to share the information. I want people to know what's happening behind the closed doors of factory farms, what's happening inside laboratories. So it was my then immediate mission to spread this information. So you could find me in my school. I had PETA send me all their boycott L'Oreal campaigns and buttons. And so I'd be in middle school. And granted, you guys, I was the shyest kid. My parents, when I was 5 years old, had to train me to say hi to people because it was so painful. I was so painfully shy. But when it came to being a voice for animals, here I am, this shy middle school kid, carrying around, like wearing buttons, handing out information. You know, I was just so full of hope. And there was the painful side of it, to be so connected to the suffering of billions of animals every year that are dying, suffering, and being murdered. But I was also so full of hope, because I thought everyone must be like me. As soon as they find out, they're going to immediately go vegan like me. So I sat in cages on the side of the road, you know, bless my parents' heart. Thank God they were so supportive parents. I couldn't be more grateful to my parents. They literally would drive me before I had a driver's license to go sit in a cage on the side of the road. I mean, what parents do that? I mean, thank you, mom and dad. That's so. They still let me do that. But I was, you know, it was my thing. There was nothing else I cared more about in this world. So I would leaflet and plan protests. Went to Barnum and Bailey Circus, you know, every year. We had Fur-Free Fridays. I planned and organized and really dedicated a lot of my life to this. And it was a really bitter pill to swallow, I have to say, when it really hit me that most people were not ready to know, did not want to know, did not want to open their hearts, were mean. I mean, the cursing people would, you know, at a teenager who's there with this open heart and wanting to share this information, and people were angry. And so that was my kind of middle school, high school direct activism period, where that was my main focus. And I'll pause again.
Alex?
Go ahead.
I'm just so impressed.
Me too.
I think for most of us, possibly even still for you, Ella, like it's a little bit uncomfortable to do direct activism or to have those conversations. I think on the one hand, like, we're so tied to the outcome. We really want people to wake up and see it from the animals, from the victim's perspective. I can't even imagine, like, I was bullied in middle school, elementary school. Like, I can't even imagine having the courage to go around and, I mean, putting yourself in a cage on the side of the road is just next level as well. The courage at such a young age, when I assume, like, did you make any other vegan friends, or was it mostly just you the whole time?
Yeah, no, there was this local animal rights group, a very small little group that I really became a leader of in. So I was very lucky, very fortunate to have that. And, you know, within a few years, my younger sister went vegetarian then vegan. My dad went vegetarian vegan. My mom moved in that direction. It wasn't until many years later, and she got colon cancer, that she became completely vegan. But I was very lucky to have that sort of local community there to support me in that mission.
Yeah. I'm grateful you had them too. And I have so much respect to you for being that young and being in school and passing out flyers and talking to people about this subject. Like, that's just so powerful, and lots of respect to you. Because I mean, at that age, I feel like a lot of kids are very just doubtful of themselves. Like, they don't really want to, you know, be themselves. And there's a lot of bullying and judgment and self-judgment. So I just have tons of respect for you for continuing, like, showing up every day with the buttons and the pamphlets and wanting to educate people.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Yeah, it's kind of wild, because I didn't get, like, you know, I'm trying to think of my memory, but I was so, like, I wasn't angry at anybody. I came at it from such a place of this just authenticity of, this is how I'm living, and it feels so good to not, you know, contribute to the suffering. It, like, was this, that's the place I was coming from, not like a shaming anger place. And I don't remember getting bullied, getting nothing at school. I mean, not that many people made the change during that time, but yeah, I didn't really get bullied. It was just this, like, knowing that I was doing the right thing, and I was coming at it from such an angle of from love, like, just from love and wanting to share. And I think that was received really well in school. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and again, just shows your your old soul, like your wisdom coming through and maturity, like at that age and at all of the, like since you were 7 and even before that, wanting to drive the car by yourself at 8. But yeah, it's really cool that you were able to speak in a way that was, you know, from the compassionate side, like not the judgmental side. Because I know, like as a vegan, it can be, especially when you first learn about it, I feel like for a lot of people, you're so passionate about it and you want to like express all of your emotions and heartbreak that you're feeling for the animals and hoping that people will resonate with that and feel the heartbreak too and want to change. And coming to that way of communicating more compassionate, openly, and like, this is awesome, you're going to feel awesome doing this. I feel like it takes a lot of people years to get to that place. So I just admire the fact that you were 15 and doing that and doing protests and yeah, just everything.
I remember like, now you're having like, you're allowing me to reflect on my past. Like I do remember getting some pretty close friends in like high school that would respect that I was vegan. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm lucky. Like my friends don't, like one of them made a little joke every now and then, but the other two like had my back, didn't make fun of me or anything like that or make any jokes ever. And I was like, wow, I'm so lucky to have that support. But I think if I had been a little bit more like you, Ella, I probably would have found friends that had that same common values or beliefs had I put it out there more, instead of like the only time it got brought up was if somebody offered me food, like, oh no thanks, I'm not hungry. And I'm like, well, I haven't seen you eat. Well, actually I'm vegan. Like I really tried to kind of hide it away. I think out of almost like a fear of I might lose friends, I might lose connections if I do that. But it's funny, like by being more authentic and true to yourself, you found your own tribe and were able to get that. So I would encourage anybody listening to this, if you feel alone in this, speak up about it more. You'll find other people that resonate, maybe help convert some more people. So where did you see your life going? Like high school? Did you go to like college? Like where did you want to go with this newfound like sense of justice for the, well, not exactly newfound, but I would say like, well, all right, now I'm having multiple thoughts come together, so bear with me. One, I was gonna say, I feel like you're just like in so many ways ahead of your time. Like I think like you were just born not even decades, but maybe centuries early, if that makes sense. I hope more people are like you in the future. But also you've inspired a lot of the change that Alex and I get to benefit from today. So that is another thing to be considered there. But yeah, where did you decide to go after high school with this care for the animals that you were so vocal about?
Yeah, like I said, it was kind of a bitter pill to swallow when I really came to this understanding that change for people and changing the minds of people was not as easy as just handing them some information. And I kind of, I had a rough time in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, knowing that this is, this value and this, what I want to share around animals is like what I'm here for. But how do you, but then I gotta make a living. I gotta make money. I gotta live in a society. I gotta figure shit out. And so I ended up I ended up going to college and deciding to get my undergrad in social work. So I kind of is along that theme of like helping the underserved communities, people and animals that are suffering. How can I be helpful in this world? How can I serve? And because I wasn't sure how to do that from an animal standpoint at that point, I was like, well, let me go down the route of social work. I know you could also, become a therapist, and helping people would be another thing I could do. But my other passion has always been fitness. So in college, I hit the gym really hard. I stopped doing sports per se, like team sports, and hit the gym. Started doing some bodybuilding. Met my who became my fiance. We broke up before we got married, but met him, and yeah, started hitting the gym hard. At that point, I had my own struggles with food, because what happened was, after I graduated from college, I went into the fitness industry, got my personal training certification. And it was like people started coming to me and asking me how I got to be so strong, so fit, so lean. And all of a sudden they were like, oh, you're doing an eating plan? Can you tell me how? You know, it was like this opening. I'm like, wait, you want me? You're asking me to help you eat more plants. Okay, that never happened before. I was handing out information about the animals. So here I was like, all right, I got another way to fulfill my purpose. And it had a lot to do with my physique. So in 2007, I competed at the FAME World Bodybuilding Championships. Not because I really wanted to be a bodybuilder, because I didn't. It was actually really annoying. I don't know how you did it. I was like, oh, that canning stuff. But I was like, all right, I got to win this thing because I don't really want to do this again. So I did it, and I won. I did get first place in the bikini division. I got second place in the fitness and fitness model categories. So I was happy enough with that. But during that time, you know, I had my own challenges, and this isn't what this show is about. And we can talk about this on another show, but I had my own challenges, you know, because I was putting so much pressure on myself to be like the perfect physique, because this was now my new way of saving animals. So of course I developed like disordered eating. Of course I had body image issues. I was trying to, you know, this was my way. So that was like the next kind of segment of my journey was being a personal trainer. I ran a gym for a little bit of time, putting myself out there and helping people, because all of a sudden they were receptive because they wanted to look like me. So that was like the next segment of my journey.
No, this is all about you. So we can talk about all the different aspects. I think that, at least for me in my bodybuilding career, I think the one true advantage wasn't genetics or opportunities or things along those lines. I do think for me, I think the reason why I pushed myself to these extremes is because I was vegan. If I knew I was going to be judged for being vegan, then I wanted to show up better. If I knew people were going to be looking at me in the gym, if I'm wearing a vegan t-shirt, I'm going to take sets to failure. I'm going to train hard. Sometimes I'll even do something that looks more impressive, like in the set, like putting 20 plates on a leg press instead of like 5 plates on a squat, just because I'm like, probably more people will watch this. So I think it is a gift. It is a gift to be vegan, because the animals make us stronger. Like they almost like work it through us. They can't get up and speak for themselves in ways that most people will be willing to hear, because they're often slaughterhouses, factory farms. They can't be heard, but we get to speak for them. And so like when I would be human and be afraid or doubt myself, I would just try to remind myself, like, why am I doing this? And it's such a strong why that I feel like it pushed me in my career further, and clearly even in yours. Like you didn't even really want to compete, but you did it just to prove that point.
Yeah, no, it's very true. So I think there's like blessings in it, and there's also something we can learn as we do our best to help others open our hearts. Like you just said, it's really, it's hard. Like it's a kind of a tough sell, the vegan thing. Like I think it's really important to get real about this, because we're asking people to open their hearts to unbearable suffering. Like we're asking people to open their hearts and let in the pain that you experience when you, and I'll get emotional still, like 38 years later after I learned about what's happening, I still get emotional, because it's happening every second of every day. And that incredible pain, you know? So when we're asking people to open their hearts to that, we have to know that we're asking a very hard thing. And there's something so beautiful on the other side, because the more deeply you can open your heart, the more deeply you can love all beings on earth. That beauty, the beauty of that love that you're able to me, absolutely outweighs that pain. You know, but a lot of people don't have the tools to maybe handle that. And I think it's our responsibility, if we're going to ask them to open their hearts to it, to also help provide them with the tools to handle the pain that comes along with that. And that's why we have so many angry vegans, like you said, Alex, in their first few years, you feel like you've been lied to. You open your heart and you finally figure out the lies you've been told about where your food's coming from, the lies you've been shown as a kid, reading books about the happy dairy cow getting milked by the farmer. You know, like all these lies that we need animals for protein. We've been lied to. We've been programmed. And that's really
100%.
hard. It's a hard thing to deal with. So I think I think if we want to take the vegan movement to the next level, if we want to really, really get there and really welcome people into this world, we've got to be really responsible and mindful about what we're asking and help them deal with that pain that comes along with it, because there is pain there.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say it in that way. That was really beautiful, and I agree. There definitely is a lot of pain just learning about all the things you've been lied to, for sure. I know I was really upset and just shocked about all the things that I didn't know when I first went vegan. And I just went vegan for the environment at first. I didn't even know about the animals. Like, even just that was like so angering to me. So yeah, I'm curious, what are the tools that you suggest to help people navigate that pain as new vegans, or somebody that you're talking to in conversation, helping open their mind and heart?
Yeah, no, and so I went back to school after I got my first place win and checked that off the bucket list. I did end up going back to school, get my master's degree in social work. So, you know, I started to see that the social work, I didn't necessarily want to be a therapist, but a lot of the tools that we learned, and we come from a strengths perspective, is all about helping meet people where they are, and then help them gain the tools, really empower people. And I think that's the most important piece of this. So got my master's degree in social work and started coaching not too long after that. I guess 2013, I finally felt like the world had caught up enough that, okay, they're ready to hear about veganism. We're ready to really rock this vegan thing in the mainstream. And that's when I came up with the brand, and I had moved to Miami long before that. And so Sexy Fit Vegan, I was like, what's the marketing? You know, and back then times have changed a lot since 2013, you know, in terms of certain things. Like, I get some pushback now for using the word sexy. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I was like, what sells? Sex sells. And my definition of sexy has evolved as well, as I have evolved as a human being tremendously the last 10 years. But sexy, fit, vegan, like that. In the Miami lifestyle, I was 33 at the time. I had lived kind of a pretty wild life in Miami, kind of a very mainstream life. And there was still a lot of stereotypes about vegans, you know, being hippies. Vegans are, you know, scrawny. So I basically just wanted to blow all of that out of the water with a brand that said mainstream. And since then, I've become a lot less mainstream, but that's okay, because we're still just trying to bring veganism into the mainstream, and it's gotten even more challenging this last 2 years, I think, for sure. But anyway, so then that's when I started my coaching business, and it started with helping, really focused on the actual food, in terms of helping people how to make the transition to plant-based. And so I would work with the people that were either already vegan or just ready to move in that direction. And that's kind of who I marketed for. I think that's really also important, because when I'll say, like, waste our energy speaking with people who have no intention of changing their mind, are there just to argue, are there just to fight back, are there just to put you down. You know, that I think we need to leave that, and we need to focus on the people that are ready to be spoken to in a way that will help them understand, help them open their minds, open their hearts. There's that kind of classification of people versus the people that we can just waste our breath, get very frustrated with. They make no sense. No, we got to leave them be. Let's go with the people that are ready. And I think that's, you know, one of the reasons Vegan Squad, you guys make it so welcoming to people to join that community. I think you're doing an amazing job with that. And that's kind of how I started with my coaching business. Like, are you ready to move in that direction? This is not an all or nothing thing. Because when somebody says, I say I'm vegan and they say, I could never do that, I say, you don't have to. That's my immediate response. And what happens when I say, you don't have to? All of a sudden they're like, oh, she's not trying to change me. She's not, their defenses come down a little bit. When your defenses come down, your receptivity increases. So we've got to find those ways of talking to people that help them let their guard down. This is how I've found, and there's some research along this with, you guys know about Faunalytics?
I've heard of it, but I'm not super familiar with it. So, and maybe our audience isn't, so please.
Yeah, it's a great resource. They're a nonprofit organization, faunalytics.com, I believe. And they do research. They do research to help find the most effective ways to advocate for a vegan lifestyle. So they'll actually go out and do full-on research studies, and it's great information for activists like all of us to have, because it'll help us guide us in terms of what's working, what's not, how people's mindset shift, the psychology behind the tools we're using. And I think there's a place for everything, right? I think there's still a place for the direct activism. There's a place for the Gary Yurovskys who are in your face. There's we need to share, on my Instagram, I'll throw in the tough stuff to watch every few posts. But I keep it mostly really positive. Like I'll share lots of rescued animals frolicking and, lots of happy stuff that make people feel good. And then every once in a while I'll see, the footage of the baby cows, the lines and lines of baby cows in the snow, and they're throwing one bottle in at a time to each, little cage. And I'm like, we need to see that this is the truth. This is the truth. So we need to see the truth. But for me to keep the followers that are maybe on the brink, that are not ready to see that all the time, then I want to keep that messaging positive. Here's how you can eat, and have delicious food. Here's how you can be as fit as possible. And, oh, did you know that this is how where your milk comes from? Did you know this is what happens to male baby chicks of the egg industry? Well, throwing it in there. That's how I choose to advocate now. So I have that coaching business, and then the advocacy through my social media, which is kind of where I'm at.
I think you hit a really good point. It's like I think we're stronger when we have some balance, when we can go to both ends of the spectrum, because I had like my angry vegan period about a year ago. I missed it on the first 19 years. I'm at 20 years now, and I didn't really feel like it was acceptable for me to be angry in the past. So I just kind of covered that up. And so I came back later, and I shared a lot of footage, and I had people that had followed me for 5 or 6 years start to unfollow me. And I was like, well, fine, if you're not going to go vegan, who cares? But then I realized a lot of the DMs I was getting, like, hey, I love you so much, I'm going to support you from afar, but I'm vegan, I can't see this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I can't post this every single day, or I'm going to lose some of the other people that might share the happy stuff. So yeah, like 9 or 10 happy posts, and then one smack in the face. This is the truth. And I think that's a good approach. I wanted to go back just a moment. I think that we were on something really powerful. We gave some solutions, but not to draw us back into that like hopelessness or despair, the pain. But I think it is interesting that you bring up how painful it is to go vegan. For me, it's been so long that I think I'm a little bit dulled to like almost like accepted that this is the reality that I'm in. But you got to meet one of our coaches and good friends, Maya. B Plant Powered is her handle, and I remember talking with her the last time she was here a few months back, and almost a year ago. She had just been vegan for like 2 months, and I remember seeing her post a handheld video of herself crying in her car after she saw what happened in the dairy industry. So she had already been vegan. She just went vegan because I wrote her meal plan vegan, but like I think it finally clicked for her as to why. And I remember feeling a little guilty, like I put her through this. And upon further reflection, it's almost more of just like you said before, like you just share the truth. That's all that it is. Like we're as vegans, we're not hurting people. We're not making people feel guilty. We're not making people feel sad. We're just sharing the reality. It's almost like, would you want your doctor to tell you, hey, you got 12 months to live because you have cancer? Or would you want your doctor to be like, I'm going to hurt their feelings. I'm going to just let this slide. They'll go out in 12 months. They won't know why. It's like, I think people would want the truth so that they'd be able to allow their actions to match up what matters to them. And in this case, it's like, yeah, I wish I knew the truth earlier. And I wish everyone knew the truth, because then I think we could work to end that truth. It's almost like in a relationship. Like, if we have an issue with one another, if we don't speak it or acknowledge it, if we lie to each other, it's very hard to have a productive relationship. And so if someone speaks that truth, then you can work through what the truth actually is and work on the solution there. So yeah, it's hard. And I think you're right. We need to support these people that now have this pain that they didn't know existed.
Yeah. No, I think those are all really good points. And I think a lot of the messaging does, from the vegan movement, kind of, it's not, a lot of it's not great communication, from a great communication standpoint. When I see the word you, like, these are very simple things. When you say you, this, that, immediately that is going to put somebody on guard and ready to defend themselves, instead of saying we. Like, these little shifts, and I'll see, you do this, you do that. We as a society do this. Like, let's not like point fingers so much, and remember that most of us, I mean, there are very few now. My nieces and nephew are vegan since conception, so that's great to have a population of people that were literally vegan since conception. Just phenomenal. But most people, they were programmed and they didn't know until they knew. They didn't open their heart till they opened their heart. And we've got to find that compassion that we have, which is, and this is the hardest thing. And I don't want to get political here, but I look at Ram Dass. I'm very deep into the spiritual world now. So Ram Dass, he's one of the greatest spiritual leaders of all time. But he would put on his mantle a picture of the person in the world that he would look at and feel a lot of animosity towards, even hate. He would put that one person, and I won't say who it is, except that it's our president. But anyway, on his mantle place before he died. But so that he would look every day and work on feeling compassion toward that human. That is something that I think is the most challenging thing we can do, is find compassion for the people that are causing the harm that we feel so strongly against. Because without that compassion, we're never going to connect with those people. Without that connection to those people, we're never going to help change their minds. Got to find a connection. We are all one, ultimately. This universe.
No. Continue.
We are all one. That was the universe being like, that's the moment. Lock in. We're all one.
So I think that's one of the toughest things that is really instrumental for pushing this movement forward.
Now,
that compassion.
This is hard for me. I mean, not to get political, but I was imagining the same person. And I have met some vegans that do not think the same as me politically. And while I feel like it would be easy for me to have compassion for that vegan that doesn't think the same as me politically, like to try to understand them and be like, well, you were brainwashed until you were vegan, so maybe you're brainwashed now. Like, let's talk about this. Let's see where you're coming from. What fears do you have? What motivates you? And I'm just speaking very bluntly because I feel like this is our podcast, Alex. I'm going to just say what I was saying. Are there some people that we write off? Or does everyone have the capacity for change? Like, where do we, pedophiles? Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that this means that, like I said before, we're talking about that's not the person we're going to go try to connect with, right? Like, we're going to connect with the people that have a chance at change. That's not one. That doesn't mean we can't be compassionate, and this is a very tricky from afar. It's kind of like forgiving somebody because ultimately we're harming ourselves. So by holding on to that anger, by holding on to that resentment, we're hurting ourselves. And through hurting ourselves, we have this anger that then we're not able to shine our light on the world. And the brighter our light can shine from a place of pure freaking like love and joy, the more people are going to want to join that vegan club, right? And so it's when we are holding on to anger, even for somebody who is, I mean, maybe they're evil. I mean, it could be like total psychopath, you know, better off if they were not on this world. Yes. And can we do that and hold compassion so that we're not holding on to the anger that is going to restrict us from being the best humans that we can be?
100%. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And also, John, thanks for asking the question. Like, are there just some people that we write off? Like, I 100% agree. I'm going to go into my own personal story for a second, but I'll connect it back. I'm a trans man. I was disowned by a lot of my family, and I also grew up with a lot of like narcissism, emotional, physical abuse. And like you said, like, it took me years to find compassion for my mom specifically and the rest of my family members. But once I was able, like, I meditated a lot. And the thing that really helped me, like, there was this like visualization meditation where I would like stand with the other person in my mind and let them tell me why they acted the way they acted. And I was able to, without having that clarity from that person, because they weren't unable to communicate those feelings to me being a narcissist, I was able to find peace and clarity within my own heart, my own mind, and forgive them for just being themselves and understand that they experienced some sort of trauma that made them act the way that they did towards me. And they were just not able to heal in the way that I was, but it's my responsibility to heal myself and to come to that place of grounding so that I can show up better for the world. And I can release those people from my life and release that pain that, you know, they may have caused me at some point and open that space up in my heart for new people to come in. And it's definitely a journey, but I 100% agree. And I love that you brought that up for like veganism and activism. We had some other people on our podcast, like other activists who are on the streets, you know, talking to people. And I think Cliff yesterday said that, you know, he kind of walks away from every conversation, like knowing that he did the best he could, like even if they didn't change in that moment. So I think like having kind of both of those perspectives, like being okay, knowing that like you showed up for the conversation, you did your best, and also having compassion towards the person, because like you might not know their past, you might know their past if there's somebody close to you, but just having that compassion towards them of where they're coming from, and yeah, coming to them with love rather than like anger, and also creating that peace within yourself so that you don't drive yourself into a hole thinking about like, oh, did I do the wrong thing? Or how do I, you know, connect with this person where you might not be able to, and that's okay.
Thanks for sharing that, Alex, because that's totally relates to what we were saying. Absolutely. And that's huge that you were able to do that, to find that forgiveness, but ultimately it's the best thing for you.
100%. Thank you. Yeah. For all of us. So thank you for bringing it to the table.
I think in a practical sense, like, I don't think we're going to maybe get to meet that person. I would be shocked that we maybe would put on the mantle, but we will meet other people throughout our lives. And similar to you, Alex, like I had an abusive ex-fiance, and I wish her nothing but the best. I still love her. Like I couldn't get rid of like the underlying values of why I was there. Like I loved her, but I don't hate her for the way she treated me. Like I don't have anger towards that anymore. There were a lot of lessons for me to learn, things that I'm okay with, things I'm not okay with. And by holding any anger, animosity, or upsetness, it's only going to bring me down. And so it reminded me, I think I could be wrong here, but I think this was a Martin Luther King quote, like the only way to drive out darkness is through light. And it's like, maybe we have so much anger, maybe we have hatred, maybe we really don't like the way things are. But I think, like you said, Ella, sexy fit vegan, it makes sense. Like we got to make people want to come over here. And if we're the vegan that's always, man, can you believe this happened? Did you see this statistic? Man, this sucks. Like I think we all, myself included, could benefit from posting more happy statistics or positivities, or like, frankly, I am so glad we're almost on 2027 and you went vegetarian back in 1987. Like the ability to be vegan right now and have these types of meetings, even though we're not in person, makes this bearable. I couldn't imagine if I had to take a time machine back 30 years and start this over. So Ella, thank you so much for like literally paving the way. Like I will say that, I mean that. If there were not people like you, I would have had to gone through exactly what you've gone through, and it would have been that much harder. And so, like, you know, Allie has been vegan for 2 years. I just don't think she gets it because she didn't have to do it for alone and for so long. And I think she's starting to understand why I am the way I am now. But like, I can't even imagine how much harder this would have been for me if there weren't people like you to drive the demand and make change and help other people go vegan within your family and around. And so it's really an honor to get to talk with you and learn from you. And we'll have a few more questions, but I just wanted to say that, like, thank you. You've made this easier for anyone listening.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. It means the world to me to be able to live out what I feel to be my purpose here on earth.
Proud of you for pursuing that as well, and inspiring other people to pursue their purpose too. Not only as a vegan, but also as following your heart with, what you feel your purpose is and figuring that out early in life. I think if more people figured out what their purpose was and followed through, we would have such a better world, because we wouldn't just be a cog in the machine just because we're subscribing to societal norms that we have to go get a 9-to-5 job and go work in a field that doesn't 100% fulfill us. Like, we should find our purpose and our light and figure out what fills our cup so that it's overflowing and we can extend that to others. So thank you.
And also knowing that just by living authentically, right? Like, some people, and I have a mastermind group of women that I've been through my coaching, and we met yesterday, and one of them said, sometimes I don't feel like, because I'm not the fittest person in the room, maybe I am not a good person to advocate for veganism. I'm vegan, but I feel like somebody might look at me and be like, but you're not in the best shape, like, and so she felt kind of powerless in that way. And I think it's really important to understand the power of planting seeds with people, and being, then, like we've talked about already on this show, being unattached to the outcome. Planting seeds, not knowing how. And I'm lucky enough to have been doing this long enough that I know the seeds I planted, I know a very small percentage of them who came out the other side, fully vegan. Not only fully vegan, my friend Anne, who was pescatarian when I met her, she now, is running Hogs and Kisses Farm Sanctuary. She's actually saved the lives of animals. I'm on the board of Hogs and Kisses, hogsandkisses.org. And so she came full circle, this person who, again, I never forced anything on her. I lived my life. I made little planted seeds. I just lived how I was living. She became my friend, and slowly she went from pescatarian to vegetarian to vegan to, I'm founding a micro farm sanctuary, So it's just important to know that those seeds we plant can really come through, and we're not going to always know. We're not going to always know what that ripple effect is. But there's something very powerful about sharing authentically, being you, spreading joy, coming with light, and planting these seeds. And that kind of grassroots effort goes a long way. It can be with friends, it can be with family. It doesn't have to be this big, social media account or, running coaching programs. It doesn't have to be that. It can be right there and with your own people and your own community. And the more we can, again, come from a place of love and light, the more likely we are to, for those seeds to bloom into more vegans.
Definitely.
And also knowing one more point is that, if we can make massive changes to the masses of eating more plants, that can sometimes, when we get really stuck in our head, is if you're not vegan, you're not making a difference. But if we can get a huge number of people to make changes in that direction and to eat half as much meat as they were eating before, to eat half as much dairy, sometimes that can ultimately make the bigger difference for animals. So I think it's important to also not get stuck in that all or nothing mentality that drives people away, knowing that we can make a difference when people are eating less. I mean, to us, it's like, how can you even have a bite of that? Like, you know, like in your head, you're like, as an ethical vegan, you're like, how can you even have a bite? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And we've got to say, this isn't about us and what makes sense to us. This is bigger. This is for the animals. So we got to take our ego out of it. We have to take our judgment out of it. And we have to say, well, and this is one of the things that Faunalytics will kind of come out with some real numbers about, of that difference, that if this many people are eating half as much meat, it'd be the same as, you know, this small number of people going totally vegan. Yep. So I think I just think that's an important point to remember.
It's how we start this. Like I've been saying this on a few episodes now. I'll say it again. I feel like we are leading a revolution. We're at like 1% right now. The day we hit 50%, I'm grabbing all my vegan friends and grabbing guns, and we're shutting down every factory farm. But until then, this is a very slow grassroots thing. And like what every vegan needs to remember right now, and every person needs to remember, is it's literally supply and demand. If we look now in stores, like the amount of alternative milks, it's like when I first started, I think there was rice milk. Like I don't even know if there's soy milk at the store I used to go to. So now to see like every kind of milk possible that's not from an animal, it just shows how we can change this with time. And a lot of I would say probably the majority of those milk purchasers are not vegan. The vegan milk purchasers are not vegan. And so that's how we make really big change over time. And then also for the person that's like, I don't look fit enough to do this. One, if you could have a conversation with the animal, what do you think they would say? They would probably tell you, do your damn best. And then next, back to what I said earlier, if I wasn't vegan, I wouldn't be this hardcore of a bodybuilder. I remember thinking that almost every day in prep, like, man, if the whole world went vegan tomorrow, I'm backing out of this show. I have nothing to prove, no reason to do this. And I'm thinking like, how psychotic must all these other competitors be to do this without feeling like it depends on the wild survival of all the animals? I don't know how they do it. It's an insane sport. It's hard as fuck. But what I would say for that person is, this is your chance to use something to be your motivation. Most of us, like calling this what I see it as, most of us do not love ourselves enough to do the right thing. And so I think for me, loving the animals has pushed me to become a better person. I'm now a better public speaker, better bodybuilder, better businessman. Like all of this coming back to activism, it's really been a great tool. So when I'm scared to try something and things feel really fucking hard, I'm like, at least I'm not in a factory farm. At least I'm still alive. And you know what? No matter how hard this gets, if I lose my job, if I run out of money, if my partner leaves me, my house burns down, I still got to do this. I've got a really strong reason to keep moving forward. Nothing is going to slow me down. So if you're wondering, like, am I good enough to do this? Like, if you're even thinking that, the answer is yes. So anywho, I'm going to bridge that. I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have to run right now, Ella?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple more minutes, but yeah.
Very quickly. I'm sorry, Alex. I want to hear her thing real quick. So we've been asking all these activists, if you could speak to all the other activists, what would you say? I feel like Cliff gave us a really good one yesterday. Try not to focus on the outcome. People are between a 1 and a 10. A 10, they're right ready to go vegan. 1, they're very far away. So as quickly as possible so that we're respectful of your time, what would you, if you had a room of other activists or soon-to-be activists in front of you, what have you learned in all your years of doing this that they could take away, like a skill or a mindset or literally anything that you've learned that you would want them to know or that you wished you knew earlier?
I think embodying compassion includes yourself. And I think when we forget to, and I feel like I was kind of one of the last beings on earth that I learned to have compassion for was myself, because we can't be there for others. We can't shine our light. We can't be the best activists we can be if we're not taking care of ourselves. And that's physically, that's mentally, that's emotionally, that's all the things. Finding the community, finding the people to surround yourself with that lift you up, that help you recognize the beauty in yourself, and then using that to help spread just as much pure love and compassion to the rest of the world, I think is really important.
Thank you.
Did you have a last question, Alex?
Yeah.
I did, but I might open a new can of beans. So I wanted to ask, you don't have to answer, we can save it. Maybe you can come back for part 2. But I was curious, I thought it was really powerful when you said, when people say, oh, I can never go vegan, you tell them you don't have to. I was curious how you navigate the conversation after that point. Like, yeah.
It was interesting when I say that, I see like the tension releasing from their body, and I've been training Tai Chi for the last almost year and a half now, so I'm very much into the energetic field, and so you can see like the tension in their shoulder. I can see it almost like drop, release, and then they'll usually ask a question. Like it opens this door people don't like to be told that they have to do something. People don't like to be told what to do, right? People don't want, like, that is an immediate path to resistance. So when you take that away immediately, I see them relax, and sometimes that conversation will then go, oh, okay, I don't have to be vegan. Then they might ask a question, because now they know that I'm not there to attack them. I'm not there to change them. And they can ask a question, and then we can go from there. Again, about moving in the direction of a plant-based lifestyle is how I'll speak with somebody who's not ready to think about the animals yet, who's not ready to open their heart, but who's open to, who might want a better physique, or there might be other reasons. Then we can start to make, here's one thing you can do tomorrow, right? Starting small. Here's one thing you can do right now at your next meal to start to add things to your plate that are going to help you. And then thanking people even who are just reducing their meat a little bit. Like, when you thank somebody for doing that and saying, oh, you saved like this many animals, that wasn't their intention, but randomly they did, then it gets in their head like, oh, I did something good, right? Like people are generally, most people want to do well, want to do good, want to do right by other beings. They're just, the programs are so strong about what's like, Dr. Melanie Joy says, what's normal, natural, and necessary. Like, that's what, when you're coming from a place where you think eating animals and their secretions is normal, natural, and necessary, that's a huge shift that we're asking them to make. So we just got to recognize that and take it from there.
I saw The Matrix many years after going vegan, and I really thought it was going to be an analogy for veganism. Like, that's how hard this is. We are in such a manufactured world, like you said, that it's just set up for us to fall right in place and spend money and keep the machine rolling. So, yeah. Ella, I want to be respectful of your time. You are a friend, a fellow vegan coach, an influencer, and I know we all feel a little bit different about that world, but you have influenced the world in a very positive direction. And I'm just so grateful to be doing this in your paved path that you've created for me, because you've made it easier and allowed me to reach further and do more and get to look to people like you as an inspiration. Because I wasn't that kid that was able to quite think for my own yet. I needed to have role models and other people lead the way. And you've done that your whole life. And I know that you'll do that until the day you die. And everybody that's getting to listen to this is having a better experience because of you. So thank you so much for me personally, but also for everybody else. You're really changing the world, my friend. And I'm so glad to have the opportunity to get to talk with you. Thank
you so much, John, Alex, for everything, for the work you're doing. You are now, like, you've taken the reins and you are now paving the path forward. You're like bulldozing the path forward. And I couldn't be more grateful to be in your orbit and be a part of what you're doing. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Ella. Appreciate you. Much love.
Also, you're still like super jacked. I see your bicep vein just like bulging through you.
Yeah.